Hello, and welcome to episode 165 of Gamers and Lost Spark podcast. I'm your host, Antony Chesson, and joining me this week, it's what you get if you cross a really good craft beer with a Yorkshire pudding. It's Mr. Steve Carter. Hello, sir. How you doing?
I'm instantly drooling over the thought of a beer and a Yorkshire pudding right now.
Man.
I feel like next time we make Yorkshire puddings, I need to include some sort of beer in the batter. That can only end up in good things, right?
Well, you have like beer batter onion rings, don't you?
Yeah.
You have like beer batter onion rings. You have like beer batter fish. So why not? If you don't put beer into your batter, you could always have like some kind of stew, some kind of beery stew in the middle.
I think we might be on something here.
Yeah, like Jamie Oliver has a recipe that used to be my go-to autumnal recipe many, many moons ago, which was kind of like a Yorkshire, Yorkie brown stew. And you used to put like a bottle or two of Yorkie brown into a stew, and that was just delish.
Oof. I think we're going to have to start a recipe book here. A Lost Spark beer recipe book.
Exactly. Thicken that up, stick it in a Yorkshire pudding. That's a Sunday in Yorkshire, if you ask me.
What more could you want? What more could you want after a shift down the pit? What more could you be after? How are you, sir, anyway? How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. I must admit, I will jump into kind of what we've been playing a bit later, but I fired up xCloud today. Much to everyone's disgust. But I fired up xCloud. A friend of mine at work, he's an Android boy. He's an Android boy because obviously, as we famously know, that Microsoft's xCloud preview that is kind of out and about is only available on Android right now. So obviously, being a bit of an Apple fanboy, I did not have access to an Android. We only had some kind of hybrid BlackBerry thing in our pool at work. So a friend of mine at work said, I've got a spare Nexus, whatever that is, a Nexus, whatever phone. So he said that he would bring it in. So he brought it in. I logged in with my Google account and, fired up Sea of Thieves straight away. I brought in a controller to work. I paired my controller to the Android phone, which was all very nice and easy. And it was just so, you just basically fired up the xCloud app, and then you had Gears of War, Halo 5, so Gears 5, not Gears of War, Gears 5, Halo 5, then there was Sea of Thieves and Killer Instinct. So they were the 4 titles that you had to choose from. So I did that, and jumped into Sea of Thieves and just kind of had a quick look around, and it was working well. Had a bit of a lag at the start, but it seemed to kind of pick up and work well.
And how did it kind of feel playing it on a much smaller screen? Did it seem all right? Did it suffer from being on the small screen, or? Well,
I mean, it's a bit weird on the small screen. It's a bit weird having it kind of like, it's similar. Obviously, the Nexus isn't as big as the Switch. So it is kind of a bit of a small screen, looking at the text and stuff. It's a little bit difficult to read, but it just works really well. We've got about, I think the Wi-Fi hotspot that we have for the IT department in our London office, I think we get about kind of 40 to 50 down. So it seemed to be kind of, and it was early morning, so there was nobody using it. And it seemed to be kind of coping. So I was quite impressed. I was really impressed. It looks shiny, even on this Nexus. I don't know what the screen is, whether it's kind of what the kind of resolution of the screen, but I turned the brightness all the way up, and Sea of Thieves looked really good.
And there was no noticeable sort of lag or input lag from the controller to the phone, or?
Oh, there was definitely a little bit of a lag to start off with. There was definitely a little, and I got an error message basically just saying, "Oh, you need to switch to a different protocol of Wi-Fi." It was like, you're on, I don't know, protocol 2, you need to go to 4. There was something like that, and it was like, if you go to that, you'll get a better experience. But while I was there was a bit of a lag, a little bit of you could almost see it kind of like redrawing in. But I've tried it at home. I tried it at home before we kind of rushed up to Pod, and it looks really good. Looks really good and plays really well. It's kind of one of those things. I've been messing around with some streaming this week because I also played what else did I play? I played MLB 19 The Show using the Remote Play app for the PlayStation. Yeah. So Nicola was playing Overcooked on the big TV. So I just basically grabbed my iPad, paired my PlayStation controller to it and then started playing MLB The Show. And that was really interesting because obviously something quite precise as a baseball game, you've got to swing at the right moment. I was doing well.
It's a promising start that this is kind of in its infancy, but yet the sort of the early infrastructure seems to be, fairly decent. Like you say, for a game that I suppose in a way, you'd probably say the same with Gears if you played Gears on the the xCloud. That needs sort of a certain level of precision with the aiming and the shooting. So it'd be interesting to see how that fares, and if there's any sort of lag for bullets and sort of catching up and rubber banding, for want of a better phrase. So, but it's interesting to see that, like I say, both of them seem to be well rolled out in the early stages, because I think that was our big worry and main concern when we first kind of started discussing it, wasn't it? That it's going to be great to play, Call of Duty, Halo, Gears, whatever it might be on the go, but is it going to actually work? And obviously, did you play with other? Obviously, if you played Sea of Thieves, obviously it's going to be a server of other people on there. But did you come across any other people playing online? Was there any noticeable difference there, or?
No, I haven't come across anyone yet. I literally just I did a solo sloop. I did a solo sloop with like a closed crew, and just and then just took it out of the water, and that's what I've done. Like I say, I got home quite late. I've been in London today. I got home quite late, so I'd only just kind of had a quick go. I think after we podded, I think I will kind of give it a bit more of a razz and see what it's like. Put it through its paces and try all the games. I think that would be kind of really cool. But my early impressions is, especially kind of remote play for PlayStation seems to work really well on the iPad, and xCloud. xCloud preview is kind of it looks really interesting. I still say that on the train journey coming home this evening, I didn't even bother getting it out because I was trying to look for news for the show, and the Wi-Fi on the train was having trouble just showing me Twitter, let alone kind of Sea of Thieves. It was just having problems showing Twitter. But saying that, I did get an email from O2, who is my provider, saying that they are rolling out 5G in London, Leeds, Edinburgh, and Manchester, I think, very soon.
All right. So that'd help, wouldn't it? So
yeah. I think I need a compatible device first. I don't think any of the iPhones are 5G compatible at the moment, but it's all positive steps into that way, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's it. And like I say, my kind of bugbear with Apple. A chap at work that I work with, he bought the iPhone 11 that they're on now.
Yes. Yes.
He bought that. He bought that on launch. He had it reserved, went to pick it up, blah blah blah. Paid his £1,200, whatever it was, for the version he got, and they're not even 5G compatible. And it's like, well, for people who for this sort of thing, do you know what I mean? It's like, it might not seem like a big deal because we've got 4G doing early 5G, but for these sort of things and streaming and what have you, that's going to be big in the next sort of 12 to 18 months. I think it's kind of a bit of a short-sighted decision beyond, well, we can just implement it in the next wave of iPhone, for Apple to think, well, we don't need 5G because Samsung are already there. Do you know what I mean? They've made the previous phones compatible with 5G. The new Note's now 5G compatible, and the Edge, if you want a Samsung Edge that folds in half. But for this in particular, given that it's on Android only at the moment, especially, it's a big win-win. So, but yeah, like you say, for 5G to be rolling out for these sort of things, for streaming, remote play, it's only a positive and a win-win, really. Because like I say, it's not ideal when you're travelling, but if you're, say for example, a uni student, somebody on the lunch, you've got your tablet with you, your iPad with you, and you just want to have a quick gaming session on whatever it might be, and you've got 5G, strong 5G connection, then there's no reason necessarily why you can't do it now, is there, sir?
Absolutely. It's just, like I say, I was really interested. For me, it's more because I'm tech curious, so I just wanted to kind of jump in, kind of fire. It was so funny when I got this Android phone. I was like, "How do I do this? How do I do?" Because the subtle differences between an iPhone and an Android just really make me chuckle. I was just like, my mate was just sitting next to me going, "You swipe down, you swipe up." It was just, it was really funny. It was really funny. But that's, I guess if I handed him my iPhone, he would be equally as lost. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. I mean, I've been living in the future with these streaming devices. I'm quite excited. So it's like I say, I want to give xCloud a bit more of a play. So Steve, it's been a while since you've been on the pod. What have you been up to, sir?
I don't even know. I mean, it seems like a long time ago, doesn't it? I mean, it's probably a good month, or probably more now. 2 months, maybe 3 months since I last on. So
I think it's got to be at least 2. I think it's got to be at least 2. You must have been to about 8 beer festivals in this time that you haven't been on the pod.
Have I been to a festival? Have I? I can't even remember now. I think I'd been to the one for my stag do when I was last on. I've been to plenty of like bars and pubs and things in the meantime. But speaking of which, I have. I'm coming down to your kind of neck of the woods in January next year because I've actually got tickets to go to the beer festival that's been run by Arundel Brewery, which is in Brighton. Mm-hmm. So I am venturing down south in January because I won some tickets on Instagram, so I'm looking forward to that. Because I mean, I know the beer scene down there where you guys are is quite strong, so I'm looking forward to coming down, and if I can see any of you guys whilst we're down there, then would be perfect. But yeah, I've just been plodding along really. I've just been playing a few games, just been catching up on some TV. Just work really as well. It's just having to do grown up things. Plan a wedding, work. Sometimes beer and gaming has to take a bit of a back step and a back seat, unfortunately. So, as much as I'm trying to make a beer a thing for me, it's still very much a hobby at the moment. But in not sort of news for myself, but for my dad, which is a slight shameless plug, really. For anyone who kind of knows craft beer, and I don't know if you know, sort of like the Northern Monk special edition releases, like the Patrons projects, with the sort of the labels that come off. I don't know if you've seen them or not. But there's a brewery in Leeds that do them, and the Patrons project is for people in and around the Leeds area. And my dad's actually designing and has designed a can for one of the ones that's coming up. So it's just been finalised. I've got the final copy of the label he sent me tonight. So it's probably going to be announced and released by the time this pod goes to press. But for anyone who's not listening, you heard it here first. That my dad's now a renowned, like he likes to think anyway, a renowned artiste in the beer world. So I'll share a picture with you guys to it now that I've got the sort of the final article, as it were. But yeah, that's quite exciting. So that's is got talent far beyond my simple and humble ability to draw. It's crazy.
That's just so not fair.
I know. It's really not.
He's probably a handsome bugger too, as well, isn't he? He's probably.
I won't go that far. But
awesome.
but yeah, his talent to draw just seems to know no bounds, and it's a shame that he's never really been able to do anything with it. And by us drinking more beer together and going to places, that's kind of made him and inspired him to draw again, and that's now led to this. So I'll share a picture with you guys. So hopefully there's some sort of upcoming launch for that beer, which hopefully we'll be invited to. So
so cool.
I could be famous just yet, Antony. There's still hope. There is still a slim slither of hope that I can turn this hobby into a career. So, but we will see.
That's so cool. Congratulations, Mr. Carter Senior. That is speaking of shameless plugs. Speaking of shameless plugs, and one thing I always like to mention every pod. Viva Pinata. James, speaking of talented people who just annoy you, James Thomas, the lovely, wonderful James Thomas, he launched this week Viva Pinata Crochet. So he has trademarked from Rare Viva Pinata Crochet, and he has put a whole bunch of patterns up on his Etsy store. I'll stick a link in the show notes. I have retweeted it, I think, from both myself and also the show. But I'll stick a link up to his Etsy store. There's 6 patterns that are available, and all of the proceeds goes to special effects. So James has kind of created the patterns for all of his crochet. He's got a rather awesome. Well, all of them are really awesome, but there's a really good Fizzly Bear, and the Fudgehog is just too adorable. So which led us, while we were watching Taskmaster last night, it led us to that conversation that Nicola and I had. I was like, do you think I could crochet? And she was like, no, but it will be fun to see what you create. So I'm going to download the patterns from the Etsy store. I think it's only about £12 for all of the patterns, which is absolutely fantastic. I think there's a bunch. I'm just going to click on the link right now. So there is a pack. There is a Viva Pinata Party Pack 1, and that is £12. Otherwise, you can buy all of them individually. There's a Buzzlegum, a Fizzly Bear, a Crocodile, I should say, a Fudgehog, and of course, a James Thomas crochet collection wouldn't be complete without a donut. So there is also a donut as well, and they're just bloody adorable. And so that's now available. So a couple of shameless plugs. It doesn't hurt to plug the wares of the Sparks.
He knows no bounds, that man, does he? His talent. He just seems to be just good at everything. I know. I'd rather pay him to make them for me and send them, because whatever I attempted to do with that crochet, it would either end up looking nothing like it, or I'd give up halfway and throw it across the room and just sulk with it, and then, and never have a Fudgehog, or and I'd be without them forever, and I'd just be sad. It's sad forever that I can't have a real life Viva Pinata.
Or just something that looks like Jeff Goldblum when he came out that fly.
Yeah, some horrible crossover.
He came out the pod. It'll be just some really weird looking thing. But yes, so that's kind of that. So anything else that you've been up to, sir, while we've been away, or should we jump into what we've been playing? Because we've got a bumper crop of games.
I think we've been playing a fair bit, so I think my life's not been that interesting over these last 2 months. So I think we should probably give something to the people that they came here for.
Moving swiftly on. So Steve, what have you been playing, sir?
So the biggie for me is Borderlands 3, which I think was just about to come out before we last podded, I think. So if I remember rightly, you and Stu covered Borderlands 3 and had the Borderlands beer on one of the previous shows, which I have had as well, which I managed to get my mitts on some. So that's been my biggie of the last couple of months since it launched, and I'm really liking it. I mean, I'm a big Borderlands fan anyway, and I've played Borderlands 2 numerous times, and I've played it and finished it again in preparation for Borderlands 3. Played the DLC in between, to kind of bridge the gap, although I feel like it bridged a little gap, but not overly. So, but Borderlands 3 is great. I mean, I'm playing it on the One X on my 4K TV, and it just looks fantastic. I mean, Borderlands has always looked great with this sort of, hand drawn cartoon style effects that it's got. With the colours and the textures. It's always looked bright and shiny and sort of crisp and clean.
Yeah.
And just in 4K as well. They've kind of seemed to have ramped it up a little bit, so it's odd. It's more cartoony and a bit more 3D. I mean, it's hard to describe it unless you actually compare it and see them side by side, if you know what I mean. It seems to be less sort of actually hand-drawn than Borderlands 2, but you can still see that it's got that sort of touch to it, so it's still got that little bit of style. But especially with the power of the X as well, to be, you can have you've got the 4K, the HDR, but then you've got the draw distance, the performance, the frame rate, you can have all those different tweaks like you would on the PC, and it stands out, and the colours on it are just fantastic with the HDR. And I've loved it, and I've probably sunk 25-30 hours into it already. I've not finished the story. I've just been doing side quest, and just exploring and just trying to get out there, because the more noticeable thing about this is how huge the world is in comparison to Borderlands 2. The sections that you play in are just enormous now in comparison. It's a shame that some of them aren't seamless, in terms of, because there's a lot of loading screens in Borderlands 2, and there are fewer loading screens in Borderlands 3, but there's still a few if you skip between one area to the other. But given the size of some of the areas, it's inevitable that is a thing, so you can kind of forgive it for that. But it's got all the things that you want from Borderlands. You know, it's got the writing, the characters, the script, the gameplay, the guns, the levels, the worlds, everything. You know, I mean, it's not perfect, which I think we messaged a couple of times when it first launched about its performance and how it ran. You know, in terms of the loading screens and then also the menus as well. Been a bit of lag to it, you know, a bit of slowdown in those sort of areas, which I played it this week and is still there a little bit, which I don't know if that's something that can, you know, they're still looking at to iron out. But I've noticed that they seem to do a lot of hot fixes, that Gearbox are doing a lot of hot fixes, so not necessarily a full-blown update, but when you load the game and first fire it up, if you've not played it for a few days, it then says, oh, there's updates available. It takes you back to the main screen, then you load back in again, so you've not got an update, but there's maybe like a slight patch in the background that it just sort of rapidly patches or kind of, for want of a better phrase, kind of puts a bit of a band-aid over it sort of thing. So it's not perfect, like I say, it's not by any stretch of the imagination, but still it's what I wanted from Borderlands 3. You know, it's just more Borderlands 2, but better. Bigger, better, more guns, you know, the hilarity and the...
Shinier.
Yeah, shinier, bigger, better. It's got everything, you know what I mean? You know, the daftness and the craziness of some of the missions, you know, it's just there, you know, and it doesn't need to make sense because it is what it is, you know, and the story's going to be the same. It starts the same, you know, with Marcus telling you a story and there's a vault and then you meet all the previous characters, you know, Ellie, Hammerlock, Lilith, everything, you know, but that's kind of keeps it, you know, on its path and kind of keeps it on track. But yeah, it's just daft fun, you know. I mean, the one thing that I would say that I've noticed as well, I think I don't know if they've been in trouble for it, but they've renamed the midgets. I don't know if you've realised in there. They've renamed them Tinks from midgets to Tinks.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
yeah.
Really? No,
yeah,
I hadn't noticed that. I hadn't noticed that.
Which I must admit, when in Borderlands 2, I thought they kind of maybe pushing the PC boundary, you know, just a little bit with that one. But yeah, yes. I think they may have caught up with them and they've had to rename them Tinks in this one, which I don't know if there was anything official about that, but or maybe they just thought, maybe we've pushed it a little, you know, for long enough now.
The legal department went, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. There's too much other salacious stuff in there. We can't go this far.
Yeah, but yeah, I love it, you know, and it was always going to be an instant buy for me. You know, there's not many games these days that I buy. It's, you know, a lot of them are either I'll get them through Game Pass or I'll boomerang them. But this was just I had some birthday money, so do you know what? I was going to pick it up because it came out not long after my birthday. I mean, I've not tried it in co-op yet with any of you guys or with a couple of friends that I actually play online with, which I've not really felt I need to. You know, I feel like it's better with the second player inevitably, like Borderlands, or it will be because Borderlands 2 was as well. But I've noticed that there's been some tweaks in terms of that as well, in terms of you can play like a friendly co-op mode or a competitive co-op mode where loot's either shared or you fight for the loot and there's only one of the item that's dropped. So there's a lot of different kind of play styles that they've thought of, and clearly, you know, they clearly try to make it a bit more interesting. So it'd be good to see what it's like in co-op, and I think there's a mode when you complete it as well. I think it's like something else that opens up afterwards, after you've completed the main story. I can't remember, the name escapes me now, but there's something at the end on the menu or something that says complete the story, or like a game plus or new game plus mode or something, I think. Which I'll be interested to see what happens after that, you know, in terms of, you know, cause if it's just a case of like a Dark Souls-esque mode where everything ramps up and gets more difficult and, the enemies become tougher and the loot becomes better, etc. So, but I could sit and play it all day. You know, it's just an easy game to play. Pick it up for an hour or 2 hours, put it down, come back to it in a couple of days or whenever, and again, just play it, turn it off, then obviously it puts it in standby mode, pick it up again, just keep jumping in and out of it, and, you know, away you go sort of thing. So, So yeah, that's the main sort of game that I've been playing, and then
Who are you playing as? What's your character?
It's the girl. So it's like the gunner class. I can't remember her name, but you know, the one that's got like the sort of Titanfall-esque mech power up, which
Mose.
That's
Mose.
Is it Mose? That's it. Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of good as well. That's a good point actually. I've noticed that they gave you a sort of a description of each character and what sort of play style suited each character and what your skill level or familiarity with the game was as well. So in terms of if you're a returning player, a new player, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I think Mo's, it came up as like, that's more like she's more a balanced character. So people who prefer long distance, close quarters combat, that sort of thing. So I like a combination of running and gunning, but then also doing a bit of sniping from a distance as well. Because I think it was the first Borderlands I played as Zero, the ninja.
Right.
She was like, stealth and sniping and that, but obviously that's kind of not what you do in Borderlands, so it kind of, well, it's got its place, but sometimes it's just like, it's nice to run in with a rocket-propelled shotgun like I've got at the moment, just blast some psychos and some enemies, and then just suddenly pull a giant mech out of nowhere, and, just even more so, just get your minigun on them and blast them. But the main sort of male character, who's kind of like the berserker, doesn't his like drone or something like shout at like enemies or something, or he's got like a little voice and a personality when you deploy it, which I must admit that.
Oh yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so
that's who I'm playing as. So I'm playing as that. Yeah. So yeah, it's really good because when you release the drone, if you then aim or kind of like just kind of look, grab a gun, aim at the enemies, that's who it will zero in at. So it will just go in and go. And it's really cool because before I'd always play as like the kind of the gunner, because I used to love like throwing out a turret, just leaving the turret there, running back and let the turret kind of do the carnage. But I've got that with the drone now. So I'm playing as that. And Nicola's playing as the siren, so she's doing the siren, and I'm doing that gun guy. So it's just really cool. We haven't played it for a week. I'm getting kind of withdrawal symptoms because we haven't played it for a week because we've been busy. And plus Nicola's got 2 4-stars on Overcooked 2 that she's desperate to try to get. I think I've just got a message to say that she's just got one of them. So
it's getting out of hand now.
It really is. I'll tell you, it was really bad. She was just like, the other day I walked into I think it was when I was podding with James last week. I walked downstairs and she just like looked at me and she hadn't moved. So while I'd been up podding for about 2 hours, I came downstairs and she hadn't moved. She'd just been playing the same level and she had really red eyes. So I was like,
in the same posture all that time.
Exactly. And she just looked at me, she went, I'm really thirsty, can I have a cup of tea? And so I said, right, I'm taking the controller away from you. It's like a bit of an intervention. Yes. So I've been playing some other stuff, which we'll get to in a mo. But, so I'm quite desperate to kind of get back into, to Borderlands and kind of play a bit more of that kind of maybe at the weekend, especially as the weather's terrible at the moment in the UK. So it'd be quite nice to just kind of hanker down and, play some Borderlands.
Get into those cold or winter months now where you just want to stay inside and not go anywhere, isn't it? So you can get on the sofa, snuggle up in a blanket and just play some games. So it's the best time of year, if you ask me. So
Indeed. What else have you been playing?
So the only other game that I've really been playing is, as I was saying, I tend to boomerang a lot of games these days, is Yoshi's Crafted World.
Right.
So I've had that. I've played a few levels on it. I've not played as much of it as I'd like to. I think I'm going to start taking my Switch to work now because there's somebody else who's just started who also plays a Switch at work on their lunch break. Right. So I feel like it's more socially acceptable that if I do it now, that I'm not always he's just that nerd that sits in the corner at lunch and plays his video games. So I feel it's more socially acceptable now. So, but yeah, that like I say, I've only played a couple of levels, but that thing's incredible. That just the opening 2 levels on that is just, as much as people berate Nintendo and just having a few sort of IPs and characters and games, it's like, where do their ideas stop? Because I know you've obviously had Yoshi's Woolly World and things like that, and it is a bit sort of Paper Mario-esque, that sort of thing. But it's just, this creativity seems to know no bounds, you know what I mean? It's just, every game that they make around a character, even if it's a side character, like, Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker, for example, it's just like, it's not a main character by rights or a strong character and they don't speak, but they can still make a really endearing game around them, and I've always enjoyed Yoshi as a character. I've always, it's kind of been one of my sort of favourite characters of that sort of, that world. But yeah, it's just, I really like it. It's really something like, not to use these words, but it's like cute and sweet, isn't it? It's just kind of, charming is probably more the better word for it, in terms of it's just nice to play it, and I can see that further down the line it's probably going to cause a few frustrations and, maybe a few sort of curses, but but still, I don't think you can't not help but like that game.
Yes.
In terms of its look, its appearance, its music, and just, like I say, it just seems quite simplistic on the outside, but to have, in terms of the stuff from the background, to firing things at the background in terms of finding, is it the flowers that you have to find?
It is.
That right?
Yes, that's right.
The hidden flowers in the background of throwing eggs at random bits of scenery just in the hope there's a flower or there's something hidden behind it, and there's the shy guys and what have you in the background walking around and doing things. It's just, everything seems to be interactive.
Yes.
It's just, there's not a piece of scenery that's not interactive or doesn't serve a purpose. That's the thing. It's just not, and it's just really nice. It's really nice to play. And like I say, I've only played a couple of levels, and I really need to get back into it because the two or three that I've played, I've really enjoyed. But again, I could see myself just sitting there and an hour or two passing, and not even realising it. So, and again, it's just, really positive for the Switch that it's got these games, and yeah, people can mock it and diss it, but ultimately it fills a niche and it fills a void, and there's a demand for it. So, I'm all for it, and, it's not going to stop, is it? The Nintendo train is not going to stop rolling, so I'm going to try and power through that, because Luigi's Mansion comes out end of this month, is that right?
It does indeed. 13 days in 13 days' time. So yes, absolutely.
Yes. So I'm going to try and power through that and get that sent off to Boomerang, in the hope that I might get that in a reasonable amount of time.
Right.
Again, because it's getting to that time of year where you stop wanting to go out on a weekend and you just sit on the sofa and veg out, so if Anna's watching some dross on the telly that she does, Gossip Girl for the 3,000th time that she's watched it or something, then I can just sit on the sofa and enjoy a bit of Yoshi, or Luigi's Mansion as it will be soon. So, but yeah, that's pretty much me really. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the two of them. And yeah, so I will hopefully jump on Borderlands with it at some point in the future.
Yes, indeed. That sounds like a good batch. That sounds like a good batch of games. The one thing I love about Yoshi's Crafted World is when you get to replay the levels quite a few times. There's you have different criteria for completing the level, and that I absolutely love that. It's just so cool. It's just really cool that you get to there's one where you have to go in and find 10 cows, and then you have to find 10 cows, or you get to play it from back to front, and then everything you can see behind all of the cartons and the landscape. And it looks like it's put together with sticky tape. It's just really, so, like I say, it's just so endearing. It's such a great game. And I just, I really enjoy playing that. I had a great time playing that.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And that's the thing. It's just that attention to detail, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the world, it's obviously, they could have just quite easily called it Yoshi's Crafted World and not put as much attention in it, but like you say, it's just like the sticky tape over little things and the dotted lines for, where the cutting round lines, if it's like a little craft book or, a kid's craft project, you know what I mean? It is just, everything is well thought out and well designed. It's a stunning little game.
Yes. So for me, this week, I've been playing it's funny because I look at my list. I was talking about MLB The Show earlier, and MLB The Show is actually it's really good. It's free at the moment with PS Plus. So I jumped in and had a look at that, and it's really good. But for me, I've almost been playing the good, the mere, and the gorgeous. So it's just a
mishmash.
Yeah, exactly. The game that really didn't hit all the buttons, and I was really hoping, because obviously we don't have a Forza this year, so that leaves me with a racing game hole. It actually turns out you can just go back to Forza and keep playing Forza. But I have a racing game hole. So Grid came out last week from Codemasters. So Grid. Now, back in the day, when Grid came out, it was incredible. You had leagues, championships. You get to customize your player. It was a really good game. It's I think it may have been one of the first to do the rewind. This game was just Grid was one of the ones, and it was kind of superseded by Forza for me, but I was still Grid had a place. So I fired up Grid over the weekend, and oh man, I don't know if it's just Forza has done it, or it's just that Grid is just, it looks gorgeous. It handles really well. There's a couple of tracks. The San Francisco track is a little bit is a little bit kind of sparse, but there is a Havana track and there's a really good, I think it's like Singapore or something like that. And the tracks look absolutely gorgeous. They've even got really detail on the tarmac, and that plays really well. But all you're presented with when you go into career mode, all you're presented with is the equivalent of Forza Motorsport, one of the championships in Forza Motorsport. You know, you just got loads of tiles. You're unlocking them, and that's it. You know, you just basically choose, like, you want to do a mini race, or you want to do Formula 1000, or you want to do that, and you just basically just go for it. And I think because I've been playing so much Horizon, you know, kind of not having maybe a hub world to kind of drive around, or just having this very stale presentation of all the tracks that you're going to, it just really didn't offer anything. So I'm sitting there playing, and I'm thinking, you know, I was sitting there playing, and I was just literally just going through the numbers. You know, I was just going, I'll play this. You know, I was just not, I didn't feel attached to my team. I didn't really have a team. You know, I didn't feel attached to my player. There was nothing that was really spurring me on. So I was listening to a podcast, and after a while, I just was like, no, I got to call time of day on this grid. You know, like I say, it looks gorgeous. It's 4K HDR. On the One X, you know, it looks absolutely superb, but it just doesn't hit you in the feels like Forza, even Forza Motorsports. You know, Forza Horizon's always that special one, but Forza Motorsport also is it's an amazing game. You know, maybe the tracks are a little stale with Forza Motorsports, but the game in all is just incredible, and the variety of cars is incredible. But it just, unfortunately, I got this from Boomerang as well, so it turned up on Friday, and it was back in the post on Sunday. So it was, So I really did Boomerang it back, you know. so yeah, I managed to get it on release day from Boomerang, but I put it back in the post on, because I just thought, I'm not enjoying this. I could stick around for another couple of weekends and play it, but I thought, you know, someone else out there will probably enjoy it more than I. So I just thought I'll put it back into Boomerang's kind of pile, and then sent it back on Sunday. So that was Grid. It was a real kind of like bittersweet. You know, it was just like I really wanted it to be good. You know, but then what I did was just fire up Forza Horizon, and Forza Horizon has a whole bunch of new achievements. Has some new stories, so I managed to just kind of jump in and scratch that car itch with Horizon. And then the other game that I've been playing that I was really impressed with, two games I've been really impressed with. One was World War Z. So World War Z is currently available on Game Pass. So World War Z came out earlier this year, and it is a first-person zombie apocalypse shooter. Think very much Left 4 Dead. You know, this game plays like a Left 4 Dead. Looks really good. Starts in New York. There's about 5 levels that you can play through. New York is the first one. It's multi-parted, so each level has kind of multi-parts to it. And my God, that game is good. That is a game I'd love to jump on with more people, because it is just, there's parts of the game where you just suddenly see, similar to the book and the movie, you see waves upon waves of zombies just coming at you. You know, there's one part in New York, you kind of clear your way through this office building, and then it's actually Columbus Circle. It's this big there's this little kind of shopping area on the corner of Columbus Circle in New York by Central Park, and you're in there and you clear that out, and then it says, right, fortify your area. So you get to put down some barriers, you get some big guns, and then suddenly in the distance you just see thousands of zombies just coming at you, and it gets a little scary, especially when you're playing solo, because I was playing solo but I had like 3 AI, you know, kind of like buddies, and you're playing solo, and it's very Left 4 Dead. If you ever played Left 4 Dead, Steve, you know, it's very like, you know, they shout out reloading, you know, it's kind of, it really does feel like this is the Left 4 Dead 3 that we never got, you know, this is just, and it plays so well, you know, and it looks incredible for a game, you know, on Game Pass. It just plays so well, and it's a real steal. So if anyone's out there, you've got Game Pass, you want to just kind of have some kind of run and gun, get a little bit stressed, because the third level, I think, was Tokyo. That kind of got me a little bit stressed. But It's very good. It's really good. It's well worth jumping in. It's just it's a great game.
Yeah, and that's on Game Pass, yeah.
It is in Game Pass. Yeah, it came out in Game Pass. I think last week.
Right. Okay.
So I think it might have been like Saturday or Sunday or something like that. I was just like, it could have even been Friday night that Nicola was playing whatever she was playing, and I was like, I'm just going to fire this up and have a look. So World War Z in Game Pass. Ukulele came out last week in Game Pass, and I think today Felix the Reaper came out, the one with the kind of dancey kind of Reaper-y guy that came out. That was in the last Inside Xbox. That's also out. So there's some great titles there for Halloween. But so that's World War Z. Like I say, give it a try, because if you like the mechanics, I tell you, it might be worthwhile jumping on a Sunday night and just kind of having a bit of a laugh, because it's bananas. But the gunplay just feels so good. It feels so good. And then last night, I want to mention it just because this game is just amazing, but I've only played an hour and a half of it. And I've loved the start so much that I actually restarted the game. I restarted the game just to show Nicola how amazing it was. And this game's Concrete Genie. So Concrete Genie is a PlayStation 4 exclusive. It's a first-party title on the PlayStation 4. And it's absolutely just stunning. This game is stunning. You start off, you're in this town that once was thriving seaside town. Think Grimsby. It was amazing. It was an amazing thriving seaside town, and now it's kind of run down.
What are you trying to say about Grimsby?
And so I'm not saying anything.
Whatever you're trying to say is
and then,
correct, by the way.
It's like, I need to get myself out of that Grimsby hole. So which most people say when they're in Grimsby.
Grimsby
so anyway, so you play this little boy. You're this little boy, and you start off, and you have this little book where he's drawn these monsters, and you get to colour them. It does use motion control on so I had to get the DualShock out because it didn't support my third-party controller. That didn't support that, so I got the DualShock out. You start to paint, so you kind of hold down R2 and you paint that, and then it goes into just this really lovely cutscene, and the cutscene is in the in-game engine, but these bunch of bullies, they kind of rip up all of these pages and they throw them away. So that's kind of the story. You're trying to get your book back, and then they send you off to this lighthouse, and when you kind of go to the lighthouse, one of your pages comes to life, and it's a genie. And it's the genie, it's the little monster that you drew, but they can only stick to a wall, so they stay within the wall. And then what you do is you then paint, and then you then direct them, and you do things like there was one gorgeous little kind of puzzle where you're making your way to the top of the lighthouse, but the genie will only move where the lights that are round are wrapped, like kind of Christmas lights are wrapped around the lighthouse are alight. So to light them, you have to draw on the walls, and I was drawing trees. It gives you like these templates, and you just pick the one you want, and it just looks so magical. But then, and the reason why I'm going to start it for the third time, you then get to make your own little monster. So you get to make your own little kind of genie. So I sat there and I was like, right, okay, I want a couple of horns. But I ended up, I put the horns, I think I put them on his chest. So it just looks like it's like Madonna from the 90s, and it keeps freaking me out. And I can't change it. I tried to change it. I just made it worse. So this thing is like an abomination. And I was just like, I've got to restart this game because I really want to play it. I don't think it's that long. I think it's like about 5 or 6 hours, but the art style kind of reminds me of like a DreamWorks, movie. Have you ever seen Ghost House?
Yeah.
So it reminds me a bit of kind of Ghost House, Cubbo and the 3 strings, or whatever that movie is. It kind of reminds me of a bit between those, and it does a really cool thing where the characters are really well animated, but it looks like the lips and eyes are kind of hand drawn, and as they move. But I sat there last night and I was playing it, and the soundtrack is incredible. And I sat there last night, like I say, and I played it. And then Nicola came down and I just said, I've got to show you this. So I just literally just restarted it and just sat there with the same big stupid grin on my face, as I was playing it. If you've got a spare slot after Luigi's Mansion, on Boomerang. It's well worth just kind of boomerang this game. There is a bit of VR. I think once you finish the game, there's a bit of VR as well, which would be amazing to be kind of actually put yourself in this world. Because once you've painted a wall or painted, I was just kind of there going, right, go back to the tram that took me from the lighthouse to the mainlands. But I couldn't stop painting things. I just wanted to paint things because it's so easy. You just press, the square button and then you choose what you want, what kind of stencil you want. It's like being Banksy. You get to choose what stencil you want and you just paint that on the walls. And I just couldn't go past a wall without putting some kind of, adorable creation on it. So I can find myself just being lost in this game, but just really enjoying kind of every moment. But right now, it feels great. The puzzles with the genies are kind of playing really well. But like I say, I'm only an hour and a half in, so I'll have more next time, next week. But right now, kind of Concrete Genie is just, it's something a little bit magical.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the pictures that you sent to us through the week of, the screen grabs that you sent over. And
yes.
And you could be forgiven quite easily on that to think it was something that was on the Xbox, the One X, given, how vivid and vibrant those colours are on those pictures that you sent over, and it looks really, really nice. But yeah, like you say, something
it's 4K. It's 4K on the PlayStation 4 Pro. I didn't see HDR,
right,
which is a bit of a shame because the way the lighting in this game is stunning.
I think that'd really benefit from if it did have it. You think HDR would kind of take it up to the next level, wouldn't it? But yeah, just looking at that one where if the character stood in front of that wall and there's kind of those bits of confetti almost coming off the wall and the light, that looks really incredible. So, but yeah, certainly it's something like you say on the radar now that otherwise probably wouldn't have been, to give it a whirl and see what it's like.
Yeah, I tell you what, this is a game that could really benefit from something like Game Pass, or it could really benefit for a demo. If Sony put out a demo of that opening level that I've played twice so far, you would just want to buy it straight away, because it really does draw you in. It's just such a lovely game. Like I say, and that was taken. It has a photo mode, Steve, and you know how much I love photo mode.
Here we go.
So it's not very detailed. It's not as detailed as Spider-Man or the other game that I spammed you guys with. Days Gone.
Every other game that's had a photo mode ever. Yeah.
Control got one today. Control got a photo mode today. So there's a patch out for Control. It's now got a photo mode. So
just leave it. Let it go. Let it go.
Beware. I want to get better. I want to study YouTube about photo modes, because sometimes you see some people and their photo modes are just like, oh, it's just so good. It's just so good. Anyway, Concrete Genie. Let's get back to Concrete Genie rather than my addiction to photo mode. It was so funny. I'm going to EGX tomorrow, so meeting up with James, Manny, Stu, and Matt, as well as others, and we're going to be playing some Marvel Avengers. So, maybe my first question should be, does this have a photo mode?
Yeah, of course. And everyone will just do that, what I've just done, hand on the head, just like, oh.
They'll be like, please,
we're not with him. We're not with him. Yeah.
You can see Stuart slipping them a tenner, go, please, just take it out.
You turn around and everyone's gone. They've left the queue. There are other stands, left you on your own. Like, guys?
All you need to do.
Yeah.
Chaps, anyone? But yeah, so that's Concrete Genie with its photo mode, but Concrete Genie on PlayStation 4. It's an exclusive first-party title on PlayStation 4. It's quite nice to have one of those. I haven't had one of those for a while. And so Concrete Genie is an absolute must. Right. Let's start the news, but before we start the news, don't forget you can rate, review, and subscribe to this very podcast for free on iTunes, Spotify, and also on YouTube. In the news section this week, Outer Worlds is only enhanced for the Xbox, Fortnite goes offline, oh god, the chaos that must have caused, Fortnite goes offline, and Stadia has a release date, a very specific release date. But Steve, let's kick off with the biggie, Fortnite. Everyone's talking about it. It's a game that the kids play. What happened with Fortnite this week?
Well, what didn't happen with Fortnite this week, and we were all deeply saddened and affected by it, which I put it as a sort of a questionable piece of news on the item list for this podcast. Like, should we talk about it? I was like, well, we can't not really. But yes, kids up and down the UK and around the world will have been beside themselves that they had to potentially go outside and socialise or find something else to play, because Fortnite just went dark. It went offline. So Gearbox wound up, not Gearbox, sorry, Epic, isn't it? Yes. Epic decided to wind up the first 10 seasons of Fortnite by going out in dramatic style with literally a big bang. So the sort of the chapters and the sort of different sort of themes and seasons have been building up to sort of the impact of the asteroid coming towards the planet, which did hit the planet, caused a black hole, and caused the game and the world to disappear for a few days, which sent the internet, Twitch, everything into absolute chaos and meltdown. So there was a live stream of the event, which, if I recall this article correctly, had 4.2 million viewers. And then the servers gave in. They collapsed because they couldn't cope with it. And I imagine instantaneously and also simultaneously, kids launched controllers at the screens and at walls and started screaming at the parents because Fortnite wouldn't work and you couldn't install it, you couldn't play it, and all that was there was a continuous video of the black hole, the little vortex on the internet. So, but it's back. It's come back. It's back online. Yes. Chapter 2 is now a thing. But what we were saying in the sort of pre-show ramble was what a gutsy move by Epic to do this. So we were looking at the figures and it generates, what was it, 2.5 million or billion every day?
I think it's 1.5 million. Yeah. No, you're right. No, $2.5 billion a day across all platforms. So they basically just said goodbye to 5 million. Now, I know that's a drop in the ocean if you're making that every day, but they basically just said they were that gutsy that they could take this offline and not worry about losing players or anything like that.
And what a position to be in to go, it's 5 million,
It's just 5 million.
If they've been earning that for the last however many months, their bank account must just be stopped counting by now. The bank just must go, you've got money. You've got money. You're not going to run out of it. You have more money than what we do. So yeah, for them to, it's not a small decision, that could have quite easily gone the wrong way, that could have quite easily blown up in the face in terms of, well, they've switched it off, well, that's it, and everyone gives up on it. They haven't really got much choice because there's nothing much else that they would go to. But there's probably been some sort of drop off in terms of people going, oh, idiots. But then by the same token, there's going to be all those kids that were dying to play it, Twitch streamers, YouTubers, Twitter people, Instagram folks, dying to get back onto it. And if you think about it, it's probably a masterstroke, really, because that demand has probably just soared even more. It's the 2.5 million is probably now 4 million or 5 million a day, and it's just gone through the roof because everybody is talking about it. And I'm surprised, in all honesty, and this isn't me being silly, that it didn't actually make the news. Because the way that Fortnite made the news in terms of, oh, it's corrupting the children, and oh, this child hit their parent because they played Fortnite. I'm surprised that there wasn't both poles of Fortnite's gone, get in, and or Fortnite's gone, oh no, as kids have turned into even bigger monsters, so I'm surprised it wasn't breaking news up and down the country, but Chapter 2's up and running now with some new features which we'll discuss, and I'll mention a brief few, but not being a 15-year-old Twitch streamer, I'm not into Fortnite, and I don't think any of us are as such, but there's a fishing pole that you can use, as we've always wanted to use in any game these days. You can upgrade weapons at workbenches. That's another one. You can swim like a dolphin. There's a career tab. There's a career tab you can track all your stats with. You can queue into another game without returning to the lobby. There's buried treasure. The list is, it does go on, which to people who are more au fait with Fortnite probably makes a lot more sense. It probably zip lines as well. So whether or not it actually improves the game or not, that's a different thing. But I can't see Fortnite stopping, and it's
No.
Like I said, I know kids and trends and phases come and go, but ultimately there's nothing else like Fortnite. It's just like a kid's version of PUBG, really. I say kids, I know adults play it, but it's more aimed at teenagers, isn't it, and young kids, so for as long as it's popular, I can't see it ever stopping, and this season 2 will go into, or chapter 2 will go into chapter 3 or whatever. Where does it stop? Because for as long as it's viable and earning them as much money as it is, it's not going to stop. It's never going to go away. And as much as people don't like it, well, fair play to it. They've hit a gold mine. Epic have hit an absolute gold mine of a game here. And whatever your thoughts and opinions of it are for kids and this, that, and other, it's irrelevant, because in this day and age, they'll get hooked on something, whether that's Fortnite or YouTubing or whatever, or playing. My nephew never puts his Switch down. He's always playing something on his Switch. He's addicted to Mario Kart at the minute, so it's one or the other. Do you know what I mean? There's always, in this day and age, there's something that they get glued to, and if this is what it is, then so be it. But Epic must just be sat rolling up cigars and lighting them with $100 bills, it's we did it again sort of thing. So so I'm not going to play it necessarily anymore, or again, I give it a whirl ever so briefly on the Switch, and it's alright, but I mean, already if you try and play it now, you're so far out of the loop and the curve, that you just get tanked every time. There's people that are just knocking up buildings and structures in seconds, and you're sat there going, well, if I put that fence panel there, and then I could put that there, and that...
What button do I press?
Or you end up doing some sort of DIY. I could make a really nice house. I could put the living room here, and I could put a kitchen there, and then by that time, somebody just come and whacks you over the back of the head with something, and that's it, game over. So, but yeah, I can't see Epic's bank account or play account or number being at any detriment to what's happened. And it must have just...
If anything, they've probably just reaped exactly. They probably just got that 2 days back, without in any time. It's quite interesting. I spoke to a couple of members of my team today when I was in London, and they both have kids that are similar ages that were one of them knew about the event, so there was obviously something's happening on Sunday night, and they were waiting for it, but they were all very shocked when it just kind of went away for 2 days, and it was just, they were all a bit antsy, a bit kind of a bit teary that it went away. So I could just imagine a lot of kids. I mean, it's really funny. On Sunday, I think I was waiting for the Strictly results show when I suddenly kind of checking Twitter, and I saw that kind of there was lots of Fortnite was trending, and there was lots. So I quickly fired up Apple TV or something, just have a look on YouTube, and there was just streamers that were. All they were showing was the black hole in the middle of the screen, and they were just sitting there going, well, I'm sure it's going to come back any minute. They were expecting it just to kind of reboot at any time. and so I kept following it for the next couple of days, and on the Monday, the same streamer was just there going, well, any time now. There was just no content whatsoever. He was
constantly.
just like... Oh. Exactly, but the strange thing was he was just answering questions from the chat, and also just getting tips. I sat there for probably about 15 minutes tops, just trying to see what it was. And I think he might have racked up about $110 in 15 minutes, with the amount of tips. And Nicola kept going, what's that number that's on the screen? I'm like, someone's just given him $14.99, and it was subs
for watching
and
a
tips
black hole.
For watching a black hole. That's the phenomenon that is Fortnite. I know it sounds like an old bugger when I say it, but it was really interesting. I just thought the whole thing was really kind of, and then obviously when it went back up, they had a bit of a wobble for a while, but then it was just, that's some sturdy servers, that can just kind of hold that. Because I think when I was looking on Mixer later on Sunday night, I think there was something 2.5, 3 million people that were watching Fortnite, and they're just watching a black hole, because by all accounts, when the event actually happened, no matter if you were playing a game or even if you were in the character select, the entire UI just got sucked into that black hole, which I thought was just really, as well as being a complete ballsy move, I thought it was a really good way that they
rolling
did it.
Out and
I thought it was just really, exactly, just sucking the UI into a black hole and they're just leaving it there. By all accounts, if there was a Konami code that you could enter, like up, down, left, right, you could enter, and then you got to play, I don't know, Gallagher or something like that. You got to play something. But apart from that, it was just like staring at a black hole for a couple of days.
Yeah. And that in itself, like you said, there were people streaming it and Twitching it and talking about it, and that in itself will have stupidly generated them hits and money and attention. And the life of being a Twitch streamer, Antony, of just being able to sit there and just talk about what in effect was just a black screen for 48 hours and get paid and tipped for doing it, That's if that's not the dream right there, then I don't know what is.
Yes, you could just sit there talking about beer,
exactly.
Steve, while people were just looking at that black
beer
hole.
Twitcher, or whatever you want to call it, and just sitting and just chatting nonsense about beer. And here's a £5. If somebody gave me a £5 to talk about beer, I'd snap their hand off. I'm not greedy. I'm not going to buy me at least a 4-pack of beer in the supermarket. So it's I'm all right with that. I'm all right with that.
Superb, excellent stuff. Well, that's kind of Fortnite. We've done our due diligence.
We're all
that's the
Fortnite
moment. Yes. Exactly. Next up with me is Outer Worlds. Now, Outer Worlds caused a bit of a hubbub this week because Private Division, who are the company behind Outer Worlds, and don't forget this is the ex-Obsidian guys who created Fallout New Vegas, and also Outer Worlds will be coming day and date to Game Pass again. So on earlier this week, and this story unfolds as well, but earlier this week on an interview with Windows Central, a Private Division spokesman said that the Outer Worlds would only support 4K on Xbox One X, and there will be no enhancements for PS4 Pro. So this made everybody just go bananas, so there was kind of, there was this is because Microsoft owned Private Division, because if you remember, I think at E3 they announced that Private Division were now a first party, so it was kind of pointing to, was it Microsoft that was doing this and making them have the One X was the better version, which they own the company, so why not? If you've got a game that's coming out on multiple platforms, then why not do that? So it makes sense. If you want to play this game, if you're a big Obsidian fan, big Fallout New Vegas fan, then the Xbox One X is the place to be. So that was the news. I think that was the news at about I think that was, what day are we on? We're on Thursday, so that must have been about Tuesday. That must have been Tuesday, and I thought, that's an interesting one to have a bit of discussion with Steve about on the pod. But it turns out there's been an update. So in the day that I've posted this onto it, there's been an update, and Private Division sent out a tweet to basically clarify or backtrack on this announcement to say that the Outer Worlds is enhanced for both Xbox One X and PS4 Pro. It includes 4K textures and resolution on the Xbox One X and on PC, and up samples to 4K from 1440p on the PlayStation 4 Pro. It looks great across all platforms. We're excited for players to experience the Outer Worlds on October 25th. So basically what they're doing is they want to make sure that those people that are on the PlayStation 4 don't not buy it, and if they're not going to buy an Xbox for it, they don't just skip it altogether. So they've come out and done a bit of damage control. So it looks like with the 4K on the PlayStation 4 Pro, it just looks we're getting that kind of, a little bit of upscaling. So we're just basically upsampling the graphics. So you can bet your bottom dollar this will still look better on the Xbox One X, as a lot of titles, a lot of cross-platform titles do. There's something that the X is the most powerful console, so it does kind of have that little bit extra. But it will be interesting to kind of see when maybe Digital Foundry do a bit of a comparison when this comes out on the 25th of October. But I thought it was interesting that potentially that Private Division were kind of giving the Xbox kind of maybe that a little bit more of a sweeter treatment.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see why they would, but then again, you can kind of see why they wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? It's almost as if the Minecraft. Minecraft's probably a bad example, but Minecraft suddenly got the rub of the green. Because obviously Microsoft own that now. So, but you'd think that regardless of that, they'd want to try and encourage sort of multi-platform sort of parity and fairness, wouldn't you? I mean, ultimately,
yes.
Regardless of what they do, it will inevitably look better on the X, because obviously it's more powerful. It's got proper 4K HDR, blah, 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 whereas the PS4 just, like you say, upsamples and upscales. So even if they did that, what's the danger? Because people will see that it's on both platforms, and if they've got both, then they're probably going to default to the Xbox because they know it's going to look better anyway. So it is a strange move. I kind of see why they would, but then again, why they wouldn't. But it just seems to be in this day and age that when they've made a decision, it's just the age of U-turns, isn't it? And again, I can see why, but it's like, well, if you're going to do that anyway, and if you're going to stick to your guns, stick to your guns. If you've made that decision, then you've made it, and as much as they've backtracked, the damage might already be done. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it might be too late for that anyway, because it's like, well, you're only doing it as an afterthought anyway, so why should I get it on the PlayStation? So it's kind of, it might be too late for that anyway, so, but yeah, it's just weird, isn't it? You'd think that, because it's clear that they're trying to build bridges between themselves anyway now, isn't it? With sort of cross-platform play and everything, on sort of like, what's the name of it now?
Destiny.
Yeah, that's it, Destiny. Yeah, and also the car game, the football car game. Rocket League. That's it. With that sort of thing, with that all coming into effect, you try to build these bridges, then it's like, well, just smashing them down in the next breath. You know what I mean? So it's, obviously we're not going to get we're not going to see a merged console at any time soon between the two, obviously, but still, you'd think that they'd make a bit more of a long-sighted than short-sighted decision on this sort of thing, wouldn't you, really?
Yeah, it'll get closer next gen, as James and I were talking about last week. It'll get close. Next gen will be closer. But interestingly, Obsidian have also kind of said that if you buy the physical version of Outer Worlds, the physical version, not the Game Pass version, but the physical version, there will be a 38 gig day one patch for the Xbox One X or for Xbox One, and also an 18 gig patch for PlayStation. So you pop in that disc, and you have a 38 gig patch to kind of download and install as well.
Wow.
That's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Well, that's like a full game, that, isn't it? That's not a patch. That's just a game, surely. But I mean, it's, again, like you say, that's only going to increase, isn't it? In terms of from this gen as it builds to next gen, a patch is going to be like that. Because the game's going to be 150 gig or something ridiculous. With the 4K, and then moving on to the future, the 8K and the full HDR and 60 frames and all that palaver. But having 38 gig on launch, for people who don't have a decent internet speed, that's just a killer. Like I say, that's a full day job, that, isn't it? A full day download, that, for somebody who's on a non-fibre or cable on Virgin. So
yeah,
that makes you wonder what that 38 gig is. Really, doesn't it?
Exactly, it's textures. Yeah. It's all that texture pack. It's all that 4K.
Yeah.
I tell you, the great thing right now is if you go onto the Game Pass app, or I think on the Xbox, you can actually, it's almost like you register your interest for Outer Wilds. So I think there's like 121 meg download, very tiny, but it's like you're kind of like bagging it.
Yeah.
So I think that will be enough that once it's available for pre-download, pre-install, you'll then get that kind of zooming down to your console. And I think, that's just a patch. So who knows what that entire game will be. So, but are you excited about Outer Wilds? Is it a game that's kind of on your radar?
I've not even seen much about it, to be honest with you. I'm just trying to look at it now. I mean, I've not really seen much at it at all, and like I say, I've kind of been dipping in and out of, the side of the gaming world, at the moment. But yeah, what by rights actually is it? I'm just looking at it now. It's just what sort of game is it? Is it a third person shooter? Is it a first person
It's
shooter?
Fallout. Basically, think Fallout. Think Fallout. This is by the team that made Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah.
So which is critically acclaimed as the best Fallout. So just think of it as Fallout New Vegas 2, but with a new studio that has some rights to kind of go off draw outside the lines, and they created this crafted world. So it kind of sounds a bit like if you kind of mix Fallout with No Man's Sky, I think you've kind of got Outer Worlds. So Outer Worlds, it looks absolutely stunning, and I can't wait to jump in.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of that sort of previews and the videos and the pictures, and you can just looking at it, you can clearly tell it's Fallout inspired, in terms of how it looks.
Fallout adjacent.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's like I say, it's not something that I've really paid much attention to. But now you've mentioned it and spoken about it, it almost looks a little bit Borderlandsy as well, a little bit, doesn't it? It's just a little bit sounds like an amalgamation of a lot of different games and genres. But like I say, I mean, I think New Vegas had a bit of a cult following, didn't it? Really, I think a lot of people dismissed it because it was, like I say, it was not by Bethesda as such that did it. But I actually rather enjoyed it, and I thought the DLC for New Vegas was actually pretty good as well. So the credentials of the studio, are there. So I'll probably give it a go upon launch, certainly, or around launch time anyway.
Yes, like I say, the great thing about Game Pass, you can just bag that exactly. download it, and then, if you've got a bored day, you can just sit there and play that, and you'll probably be hooked. Yep. It sounds like it's good. Like I say, haven't got long. That's kind of coming out between now and Luigi's Mansion. So it's some good stuff. I think we've got between now and Luigi's Mansion, we've got Outer Worlds and also Call of Duty as well. Yeah, that's
the 25th, is it, I think, Call of Duty, so something like that.
So.
Yeah. So seeing adverts left, right and centre for that at the minute on the TV, so which I am quite excited for, actually. I'm kind of going on a bit of a side mission there, but yeah. Although is the guy for Captain Price changed? The voice actor? Because it sounds like him, but it doesn't as well. I mean, I know they've made him younger. They've quite clearly made him younger, which I know they keep messing with Price, don't they? But he's kind of got that Cockney accent, but it sounds a little bit different.
Is it just Jason Statham?
Well, it could be. Statham with a tash.
Let me have a look. Barry Sloane plays Captain Price in the 2019 Modern Warfare, and he played... Let me have a look. I'm scrolling. This is fab for everybody listening.
This is prime podcasting right now.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. He has. I'm just going to see who the one before was. Modern Warfare, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare. Captain Price was Billy Murray. So it was Billy Murray before, who was from The Bill and EastEnders.
A proper Cockney geezer then.
Yeah, he comes from Forest Gate, which is kind of London, so which is around kind of where I was born. Not far. I was born in Bermondsey, so he's not kind of far from me. So he should actually talk like me, or I should talk like him.
Are you trying to say that you're Captain Price right now, Antony? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying I'm a proper Cockney, aren't I? That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, I thought it was. We've got on a real side.
Yeah, so it's different. Well done.
But yeah,
you've got good ears. You've got good ears. I like it.
Whether this large, they've got to come in some use. But yeah, I actually quite like the look of it. I know the trailer kind of does the job in terms of hyping things up for you, but I'm quite excited, given that Modern Warfare is still the best Call of Duty that there has been, to see what they actually do. And I hope it looks. Yeah, I'm hoping it's not just a rehashed version of the first Modern Warfare, but it's got the Spec Ops mod and everything back now, hasn't it? So I am looking forward to that. So
I think it's a new story. I don't think it's a rehash of that one, because they brought out the remaster, didn't they? Of Modern Warfare. They brought that out, so they're not retreading old ground. This looks like very different. It looks like it's very edgy, and it looks stunning on those adverts. Whenever you see it, you're like, oh my lord, that looks amazing. It looks like it's almost next gen. It's like it's that good. I cannot wait to just go down in the movie room, boot Nicola off the big TV and just sit there with some headphones on, and just like barricade the door and just kind of play. It just looks like, as Stuart and I have said before, I love just like playing the single player campaign. It's just such a great game to play. With the single player, it's just a fun kind of mindless shooter, but it's just good fun, and it always feels great. So we didn't have one last year, so I'm looking forward to kind of jumping in and kind of playing that, getting that done before Jedi Fallen Order comes out.
Before you turn into full on Jedi mode. Yeah.
I can't wait. I honestly, if there is a game that I'm excited for this year, it is
It's
Jedi
that.
Fallen Order. It really is. I'm just like, there's I think a whole bunch of press were invited out to LA this week, so there's some press have been playing
previews
it.
and things in there. I think of doing the rounds, isn't there?
Oh well, are they up already? Because I was saying I think they're kind of they're either kind of coming up or the great thing about it is a couple of us are going to XO 19, so that's the day before Jedi Fallen Order. So you can imagine going to XO 19, jumping on the last train home, getting home just in time for it to unlock on download, at midnight on the 15th, and then maybe not going to sleep.
Just powering through.
Maybe just playing Fallout. I'll be so hyper from XO 19 that I'll want to just sit there and play Fallen Order.
Keep you going. Yeah.
Exactly. I've got work the next day, but
details.
I can power through.
Details.
I don't do tiredness.
Yeah.
I don't do
tiredness is weakness.
Exactly. I just replace my batteries and that's it. Right. Anyway,
moving on.
About Outer Worlds patch. You've got next piece of news says with you.
Yeah, which is moving slightly from Fallout news onto more Fallout news. Is the Fallout 76 NPC update is delayed until 2020, which Fallout 76 doesn't seem to have the smoothest of journeys since it came out, let's say, which is a bit of a shame, because I've always thought that Fallout would, if it had a co-op mode or a slight online part to it, then it could potentially be, something else, which this kind of may be testing the water for future implementation of co-op or whatever, blah, 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 but yeah, I think the main sort of, or one of the big criticisms of this was that it wasn't sort of populated enough, that it was a bit, but
right.
The difficulty was that they've gone down a different steer in Fallout 76 is just after the bombs have dropped, so civilization isn't as advanced and as populated as it was or is in later games when it's, several hundred years after the bombs have dropped. But this NPC patch or update will give obviously non-playable characters dialogue lines and also quest lines for people to go do.
Right.
It'll add even more than what's already in there. Which I've not played Fallout 76 for a long time. I had it through Boomerang.
Right.
I played it with a good friend that I play online with for a while, and whilst we enjoyed it, and it's Fallout, and I like the world of Fallout. I like the stories that are... Oh, my microphone's just fallen over. Stories that are in there, the world that they've built. It felt like it could have been more. I think that's the issue, that it's always felt like it could have been more. And this is kind of their ongoing support of that to make it a little bit more and a little bit more expansive. But clearly it's not going to be as easy as I thought. So in their announcement, they said, "We're excited about how Wastelanders is coming together, but it's going to need more time to be the best, most polished update it can be. Wastelanders is turning out to be one of the largest expansions we've ever done, and it changes the entire world with human NPCs returning." So, as usual, they're putting it to the public and the player base that it's in their best interest that they do this, which I'm all for. Ultimately, if it's not going to be right, then don't do it. I hate it when a patch comes out or a game launches and it's not ready because they're just trying to cash in. That's my biggest bugbear. So, this is kind of their roadmap and future improvements for it, because they're still supporting it. It's not necessarily the most popular of games, but it's still good to see them churning things out for it and still, supporting the people that are playing it. So it's one of them that it's, like I say, it's not been the best received game in the world. And the launch, like I say, was terrible. I probably think is probably an apt word, given that servers weren't responding and people who were trying to review, reviewing sites and things couldn't even get onto play, to review it. So it's like, well, how do you review a game that you can't even play, sort of thing? Yes. But like I say, it's good that Bethesda is still sticking with it, because, like I say, we're not due a Fallout for a long time, because obviously Elder Scrolls is the next game to come out, which will be for the next gen.
Right.
The next Fallout is obviously going to come after that, but will it have some sort of cooperative mode in Fallout, in whatever the next game might be? Fallout 5, what it probably will be?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not. But I think they're probably going to learn a lot of important lessons from Fallout 76. But yeah, the future is a little bit brighter, I think, for Fallout 76 than it may have been to start with. But I'm not sure it's enough to tempt me back in, though. That's the only thing.
Right. It should be free to play now, shouldn't it? They should kind of do free to play cosmetics, kind of do something like that. That would kind of get the numbers that they need for something like this, to kind of get it populated and get it buzzing and get it kind of like full of life. I think they probably, I was expecting that kind of, I think it was like E3, because E3, I thought they would maybe come on and go, as from today, Fallout 76 is free to play, and then put some expansions on there or something.
Well, that's it, and it is that sort of game that would benefit from that, like you're saying. It's the way that open world games seem to be going now. In terms of free to play, and whether it had some additional content or DLC or whatever that you had to pay for in there, or whatever it might be. It seems to be how it happens, or even if it went onto Game Pass, in terms of to just get, like you say, just get a bit of buzz and hype about it, sort of thing. So, but yeah, I think it needs to kind of reinvigorate itself a little bit to kind of get people excited about it again.
Yes, absolutely. And then the last piece of news is with me, and that's Google Stadia. It's all about Google Stadia. So Google had an event this week. I think they had their kind of Android-y kind of new they had their keynote. And in that keynote, as well as kind of announcing new phones, they also announced that Google Stadia had a release date. So before, all we knew that it was going to be was November. We now know that Google Stadia will be going live on the 19th of November. So a couple of days after Star Wars Fallen Order, Jedi Fallen Order. So it will be coming on 19th. And in even more specific, the service will be going live in the UK at 5 p.m. So rather than kind of midnight or whatever time, it actually is 5 p.m. On the 19th of November. The server will be going live. So I imagine if you do, kind of GMT, because we'll be back in GMT, to Pacific time, to PST. I'm just doing those calculations right now. Nope, PST. So you've got, what we've got like 8 hours. So, that's early morning if you're kind of on the west coast of America, but it's all going to kind of go live there. So we've got 5 p.m. in the UK on the 19th of November. It's going to be going live. Don't forget I think they've already taken pre-orders. I've pre-ordered. I think Stuart's pre-ordered. I'm wobbling a little bit actually on my Stadia pre-order. I'm wobbling because as much as I love the tech, I think I'm not sure if I still want this Founders Edition. So I've got the Founders Edition, which obviously includes the Chromecast Ultra for 4K HDR streaming and a limited edition night blue controller, and you get 3 months subscription to Stadia Pro for both you and a friend. And physical kits are going to be sent out very soon. But I'm just not sure. But when I kind of initially watched the Stadia keynote, I was very excited, very hyper. And this has just reminded me that I pre-ordered it. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I still want it. But, I mean, so they put out a trailer. I'll stick that in the show notes. But one of the things that Engadget found this week when they were looking at that was the eagle-eyed Engadget noticed that at the start, when it launches, you will only be able to play wirelessly with your Stadia controller if you have the Chromecast Ultra. If you're just plugging it into a mobile phone or a tablet, you will need to kind of connect it with a USB-C cable. So this means that the wireless controller will only be wireless if you've kind of got that Chromecast Ultra. I said the image that they put on Engadget says, at launch, wireless play with a Stadia controller is only available on TVs using Chromecast Ultra. So if you're trying to play Stadia anywhere else, you just fire up a browser and play it on your PC, on your tablet or your phone. You're going to need to kind of wire that controller to that device.
It seems a bit short-sighted, doesn't it, really?
It does. It's definitely one that they've kind of kept quiet until now, because if you remember the Stadia announcement, what happens is you join that controller to your Wi-Fi, and the controller is also talking to the data center. It's talking to your game. So it's not going to the Chromecast Ultra to the cloud. It's actually going to both your Chromecast Ultra and the controller are both going to the cloud. And that the optimal gameplay experience is if you buy the Founders Edition and get that Chromecast Ultra.
So it's kind of forcing your hand a little bit, isn't it? It's a bit sneaky, isn't it? Like you say, it's not been really announced or anything until now, and it's not really been announced as such. It's kind of just like you say, it's what we've kind of discovered just as part of doing it. But it's like, it's like I say, it's like I'm looking at it. It's like, is it worth getting excited about? You know, I mean, I kind of get where they're coming from in terms of what they're trying to do, but are people really going to develop sort of big or specific games for it, sort of thing? You know, how much support is it going to get long term? You know, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, and I think that's the main concern. I mean, it's like, what is it? About 120 quid, is it, for the Founders Pack or something?
Yeah. 130 with that. That gives you 3 months free. And don't forget, you've got to subscribe to that, and then I guess you'll have to buy the games on top of that as well. But what I love is the ability to say for instance, right? So I'm going away in February, so I buy this in November. I'm playing Destiny 2, say for so I'm playing Jedi Fallen Order or whatever on my Xbox, or let's say Destiny, because that kind of makes more sense. I'm playing Destiny, and because I've got Play Anywhere, and because you can now kind of play cross-platform, I'd be able to, in my downtime on my holiday in the hotel, plug that Chromecast into the TV at the hotel we're going to in Orlando, and I know that they have like 130 gig download, because I was blown away when I was there last time, and I'd be able to continue playing Destiny. So I kind of like that, but I kind of feel that this is so niche. This is like, it's like, am I that interested that I'm okay to pump that money just for a bit of a tech test? Is it something that I'm going to play? Probably not on the 19th, because it won't work on the 19th. You know, it won't. There's no betas or anything, so it won't work. So on the 20th, you know, I'll probably play it for a while, get blown away the fact that I'm streaming 4K HDR, you know, and it's all amazing tech, and then it will probably just. I'll probably just unplug it from my amp and that's it. So that's where I am at the moment. I'm just like, with playing xCloud and remote play, I'm thinking I have what I need with those. You know, I'm more likely to farm for achievements on xCloud on the train, or when I'm away from home, than I am to playing something on Stadia. So, but the problem is the tech head in me just wants to play. You know, that's why I borrowed an Android phone today, because the tech head in me just wants to know what xCloud is like. You know, and again, the same thing. I just want to open up that Chromecast, stick it into the amp, and have a play. But
yeah, you find yourself in a real quandary, don't you? It's like you say, you want to try it, you know, just to test the waters, sort of thing, don't you? But like you say, when you've got xCloud coming and remote play for the PlayStation, it's just another thing to have, isn't it? You know, it's like you've already got enough, you know, in terms of if you want to play xCloud, you're gonna have to carry a controller around with you, and then if you fancy, I don't want to play that, might want to play that instead. So you've got to carry another controller around with you. And it's like, but I want to play the Switch, and you got your Switch, and then you've got this as well. It's like, how many controllers are you expected to carry around? You know, it's like, just on standby. And like you say, and if you're thinking you'll play it when you go on holiday, then you're getting it just for a niche of, it's a holiday thing, and it's like, well, you might go on holiday twice a year. It's like, well, I'm paying that money just for something that I'll use when I'm out of the country twice a year. So it's like, well, but I could probably just play Xbox on xCloud, you know, so it's... Or Switch, you know, it's
Or Switch, or just play the Switch. I'll be playing Pokemon Sword or Shield, and you know, this is what you're saying right now is kind of what's in my head. You know, it's kind of like the voices that are rattling around in my head. It's just
too many things, too many shinies.
I have a. Exactly. I like shiny. You know I like shiny, but I have like two. I have an angel and a demon, both tech heads on my shoulders. So once again, just buy it. It'll be fun. You get to play with something new. And then the other side of me is like, no, you know, it's just you'll never use it. It's another thing. So I just don't know. I'm going to read up a bit more on Stadia. It's not going away. You don't need to have it on day one. You could have it on day whatever. But maybe I'll just let other podcasts kind of like report on it and just kind of sit back and watch from the side wings. But I'm just not sure. Like I say, I've got a day. We're all together tomorrow. I'm chatting to Stuart. I'll see what he thinks as well, because I think Stuart's also one of the founders as well. So I'll see what he's thinking about his founders edition too. But that was it. So that was the Google Stadia news. So 19th of November at 5 p.m. in the UK, similar times around the world. Your Stadia will potentially go live. So yes.
Best to if you've waited till 5 o'clock to use the blooming thing, hasn't it? Can you imagine if you get to 5 o'clock and it doesn't work? It's like, I've waited all day for this and you don't even work.
You can imagine it just says connecting. Yeah. I think the best thing about the Founders Pass is that you can jump in and get your name.
Yeah.
So I think when they start shipping before it's live, you can then get your username. So it means I can get Big Sheep.
Yeah.
On Stadia.
And a lot of people can get their trademark names and sell them, basically.
Yeah, that'd be so funny. I'll be like, for me, I am Chessman on Xbox Live, Big Sheep on Stadia.
I think that would be the true friendship breaker right there. I think that'd be.
It really would.
I think that'd be it. That'd be the tipping point.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it, poor James. Right. Anyway, that's about it for this episode. Huge thank you for listening. Steve, big thanks for pulling up a mic.
No, thank you for having me again.
You're welcome, Jürgen. Don't forget you can keep up with us at gamersoflostspark.com. You can find us on Facebook and on Twitter. We're at Lost Spark Pod. Steve, where can people catch up with you?
So I am Steve Carter91 on Xbox Live, Cartero on PlayStation Network, and then my personal account is Steve_Carter91 on Twitter. And then if you search Points of Brew, shameless plug again, Points of Brew on Twitter and Instagram, you'll also find my craft beer channel as well.
Nice. Excellent stuff. I was going to make sure you get a Points of Brew plug in there. For me, I am Chessman on Xbox Live and Nintendo Switch, PS-Chessman on the PlayStation Network, Big Sheep on Stadia, and Chessman UK on Twitter. Don't forget, if you have any feedback, please send it to our email address. That's feedback@gamersoflostspark.com. That's about it, Steve. Say goodbye.
Goodbye, and I'm off to find another beer.
Excellent stuff. Bye!
Din 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 din.
Bum 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 bum.
Who needs outro music?